Take a close look at this picture. At first glance, it seems to depict a saint being lifted up into heaven. A miracle. But then you realize, this isn't a saint at all, and it's not a miracle either. It's the first heretic in church history, and he's just performed a magic trick that went horribly wrong. The story of Simon Magus is a fascinating one. The topic of today's video is right there in his name. Magus is Latin for magician or sorcerer. He is considered the first heretic in church history, but not only because of his magical powers. The Acts of the Apostles tells us that Simon lived in Samaria and impressed people with his sorcery. But when the apostles Peter and John arrived and imparted the Holy Spirit to the believers by the laying on of hands, Simon offered them money so that he too might receive this power. The term simony, the buying of ecclesiastical offices, is derived from this. The so-called fall of Simon Magus is a different story altogether. It is primarily a legend from the apocryphal Acts of Peter, but it is also referenced in tradition and by some church fathers. According to this account, Simon, who is associated with the ancient esoteric Gnostic movement, performs magic in the Roman Forum. His greatest trick, intended to convince people that the power of God is at work within him, is levitation, rising into the air. Now, levitation is a real phenomenon and a gift of grace bestowed upon various Christian saints. But Peter knows that it is not the power of God at work in Simon's levitation, so he prays and asks God to put a stop to what is happening. The demons leave Simon, he falls, breaks his legs in 3 places, and dies shortly thereafter. It is the victory of the Christian faith over pagan magic. In the Basilica of Santa Francesca Romana, near the Colosseum, the kneeling marks of St. Peter in prayer commemorate this event. The bottom line is this. Early Christians had no doubt that demonic forces existed, and Christians today shouldn't take the occult lightly either. Ouija boards, tarot cards, psychic readings, the list goes on. And why should it be such a far-fetched idea that there are evil forces that can actually exert an influence? After all, we have no trouble believing the opposite. Just like Simon Magus in the Acts of the Apostles, we marvel at the overwhelming, transformative power of the Holy Spirit. For Catholics, this power is expressed in the epiclesis, the pivotal moment in the Holy Mass, when the priest invokes the Holy Spirit upon the offering of bread and wine, thereby initiating transubstantiation, in which bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ. He does this with the words from the Gospel of Matthew. "Take this and eat it, for this is my body." Or, in Latin, hoc est enim, corpus meum. England in the early 1600s, magicians are very popular, both on the streets and at court. Whether they're performing a simple sleight of hand trick or a grand illusion, what unites them is that they utter 2 mysterious words that give them the power to do something that seems impossible to the astonished audience. Hocus Pocus. Just like the words themselves, the origin of the phrase remains a mystery. The first tangible evidence of its existence comes in the form of a how-to book from 1635 titled Hocus Pocus Jr., written by an anonymous author explaining his tricks. Then, there was a popular performer named William Vincent, who may or may not have chosen the stage name Hocus Pocus. But even back then, people speculated about the origin of the phrase. The Archbishop of Canterbury, John Tillotson, put forward an interesting theory at the time, namely that hocus pocus is a deliberate corruption of the words spoken during the Catholic Eucharist. Hoc est enim corpus meum becomes hocus pocus. This was not entirely without basis, since England at that time was a religious and political battleground, and anti-Catholic sentiment was widespread throughout the country. And over time, at least, hocus pocus did indeed become a polemical slur against the Pope. As Protestants viewed transubstantiation, the actual change of bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ, as a mere trick, a deception. To sum it up, both Catholics and Protestants have a complicated relationship with magic. On the one hand, the Church must acknowledge that there is undoubtedly a spiritual realm in which evil forces exist. On the other hand, this has opened the door to unjustifiable atrocities such as the witch hunts. The harmless illusions and sleight-of-hand tricks of 17th century jugglers certainly cannot be considered black magic anyway. So, just how dark are the dark origins of the phrase hocus pocus? Is it merely a meaningless string of mysterious-sounding pseudo-Latin words? Or is it a deliberate mockery of the most sacred act in the Catholic liturgy? Hard to say. But one thing is certain, as Simon Magus found out the hard way. There is no greater power than the power of the Holy Spirit. No tricks needed. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.